Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is your brother Nafis Abu Zayd.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is your brother Isa Abu Isa.
Alhamdulillah, today inshallah ta'ala we would like to address, unfortunately, we would like to address the issue of eradicating the fallacy of checking in and seeking permission to give dawah. Inshallah ta'ala, in today's talk we would like to, inshallah ta'ala, clarify and highlight, number one, do a person needs permission to give dawah? Number two, what station do a person have to be? Do a person have to be a scholar or student of knowledge, or can a person be a layman to give dawah? Number three, the concept of checking in. What is intended by checking in? Is this used as a concept to control or monopolize the dawah? Is it used by those who want to, seek sinister means in terms of controlling the way that the dawah goes and who can give dawah and who not? Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to, elaborate on the statements of the ulama. And the first scholar that we're going to use is the teacher of Isa Abu Isa, and he can inshallah ta'ala translate and let you hear the words of Sheikh Mufti, Sheikh Mahmoud Mufti Amr, Hafidhahullah ta'ala.
No.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. لا حاجة للمسلم لأخذ إذن.
First, you have to explain to the people that you asked the question and what question that you asked in order to know what's going on.
What I did was this issue comes up a lot. So I called my teacher and I asked him. I said, is it upon a Muslim who wants to give da'wah to ask permission for those in his city to give da'wah? Okay, he had to go to a particular individuals and say, listen, I want to give da'wah, is it okay with you? And I said, whether it's a sheikh, whether it's a du'at, whether it's a talib al-ilm, whether it's a person, an imam in a masjid, do I have to ask their permission to give da'wah? This is the sheikh's response to that question. This is the sheikh's response to that question. First he began saying, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Then he said, it is not binding, or a Muslim does not need permission to give da'wah. That was his first statement. He said he doesn't need permission as long as what? He meets the condition that when he calls to something, that he has knowledge of it, insight of the issue. That he's a person that knows the issue before he calls to it. That's the only condition that he needs.
على دراية بكل صغيرة وكبيرة في الإسلام ولكن الرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام قال بلغوا عني ولو آية.
And he says that the individual is not that he has to be at a certain level. He doesn't have to know every single thing about Islam, whether it's a big issue or a small issue, to give da'wah. The Prophet ﷺ said, inform people what I said, even if it's just one ayat. Right? Even if it's just one ayat, one hadith you know, or one ayat you know, and you just say that to somebody. He said, it's incumbent upon you to say that if you know it.
فحسب المسلم أن يبلغ الناس ما يعلمه من دين الله عز وجل.
And he said, and it's an obligation upon the Muslim to tell the Muslims, to tell the people about what he knows from the religion of Allah, what he has gathered and learned from the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
هذا هو الواجب على كل مسلم. شريطة ألا يدعو إلا على بصيرة.
And he said it is incumbent upon every Muslim to do this, as long as what? He does it upon basira, he does it upon knowledge and insight of the affair that he's calling to.
على علم. يعني إذا أراد أن يدعو لمعنى لا إله إلا الله عليه أن يكون عالما بمعنى لا إله إلا الله.
He said if he's going to call to la ilaha illallah, then it's upon him to understand the meaning of la ilaha illallah before he calls to it.
إذا كان يريد أن يدعو لنبوة الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم عليه أن يتعلم كيف يبين أن الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم رسول من عند الله.
If he wants to called to the prophet of the messenger of Allah, that he is truly a messenger of Allah, then he has to understand what that means. He has to understand what does it mean that he's the messenger of Allah. He has to be able to clarify that with knowledge that he's the messenger of Allah.
إذا أراد أن يدعو الناس إلى الصلاة عليه أن يدرس فقه الصلاة وهكذا.
And he said, if he wants to call it a salat, then the person has to study and know the fiqh of the salat. What are the obligations of the salat? What are the pillars of the salat? And things like that. He has to know these issues before he calls to it.
إن حصل علما لما يدعو إليه صغر حجمه أو كبر فلا حاجة له في الإذن وصلى الله على محمد.
He said, as long as that he has gained knowledge in the affair that he's calling to, then whether he's a layman or a scholar or a da'i or a talib al-ilm, it doesn't matter the level or that he's on, as long as he has sought knowledge in the issue that he's about to teach or call to, then it's not upon him to ask permission from anyone.
Well, the reason, alhamdulillah, the reason for this particular talk, as we said in the beginning, many of the people, especially here in this town, and also actually in the tri-state area, we are under the assumption that we need to check in or refer to others in order to teach knowledge or disseminate knowledge. Some people say that you need permission to even open up a library or to post videos on Facebook or to give khutbahs. You need permission. All of these concepts, we, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to go back to the ulama, and that was one of the scholars. We're going to go back to the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. And we're going to go back to that statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the companions and the understanding of the ulama, and dealing with the hadith that the Shaykh brought when he said, "Ballighu anni walau ayat," the hadith of Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, convey for me, even if it's one ayat, and we're going to explain what that one ayat mean due to the different explanations that we will bring, inshallah ta'ala, from the ulama. And we're going to see that there's no such thing of needing permission. The adab, the etiquettes of isti'nan, needing permission, comes in the Qur'an, and it pertains to different things, such as entering someone's house, such as eating someone's food, or using their property, or coming in on prohibited times. There are 3 prohibited times that a child or a servant can come in upon his parents. You know, while these type of things, where the Prophet ﷺ said they are only permission to be sought in 3 affairs. All of these things, alhamdulillah, are where the etiquettes of permission comes in. If someone has a school, someone has a masjid, someone has an establishment, then you can't just obviously walk into their establishment. You probably can't just walk into their establishment by the permission of Allah Jalla wa Ala, and what you do when you come into their establishment, you just automatically open up a book and start teaching. No, then in that case you would need to ask permission. But you do not need to ask, you do not have to have permission to give dawah, period. The only sharit, as the Sheikh said, the only condition is that you have to have knowledge upon that which you're calling to. That's the condition. You have to have knowledge upon that which you're calling to in order before you begin to embark on calling. There's a hadith that comes in Kitab al-Ilm, the book of knowledge of Sahih Bukhari. You can refer back to that. It's called Kitab al-Ilm, and actually has been translated from the statement of Ibn Abbas as well as Abu Sharir, where we're not going to mention the whole hadith, we're only going to mention the point from the hadith, and that point is when he actually said, the title of it is Babu li yuballighu ilm shahid al-ga'ib. Okay, it is incumbent on those who are present, yani in a religious meeting or a conference, to convey the knowledge of those who are absent. Okay, Shaykh Uthaymeen rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, in his explanation to Bukhari in this particular chapter, he said that this hadith contains many benefits. One of them is that yajibu ala shahid and yubalighu ghaib ahadith Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is incumbent upon the one who witnessed, yani meaning in a meeting or a gathering, as we said, to convey the ahadith, the narrations of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to those who are absent. وَكَذَلِكَ عَالَمْ بِهَا الَّذِي لَمْ يَشْهَدْ الرَّسُولُ صلى الله عليه وسلم. Likewise, it is incumbent upon the scholar, the one who was not witnessed during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, to convey the knowledge that Allah Jalla wa Ala blessed him with. He said also, يَجِبُ عَلَيْهِمْ يُبَلِغَ جَاهِلْ بِهَا. And he says also incumbent upon him to convey that alayhi an yuballigha, to the one who is ignorant of those affairs. Why? Because Allah Jalla wa Ala idha hamalaka ilman faqad akada alayka mithaq. Because Allah Jalla wa Ala has gave him the ability to be able to ascertain knowledge and to be able to, carry knowledge. Okay, and he endowed knowledge upon him. So indeed is upon him there is a trust with Allah. He has a covenant with Allah to convey that knowledge which Allah Jalla wa Ala blessed him to learn. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Ali Imran, وَإِذْ أَخَذَ اللَّهُ مِيثَاقَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ لِتُبَيِّنُنَّهُ لِلنَّاسِ وَلَا تَكْتُمُونَ. Okay, Allah said in Surah Ali Imran, in this verse, Al-Ayah, Allah said, indeed Allah has taken the covenant for those who have given the book in order to clarify that which they has been given of knowledge to the people, and do not conceal it. So the Shaykh add at the end of this, وَلَا تَحْتَقَرَّ نَفْسَكَ لَا تَقُولْ أَنَا لَسْتُ عَالِمًا إِذَا عَلِمْتَ حَدِيثًا وَاحِدًا بَلَغَهُ. And this is important, and this is for all of us. Look what the Shaykh said. He said, do not belittle yourself, do not degrade yourself, nor debase yourself. He said, do not say, by belittling or debasing yourself, I am not a scholar, I am not a student of knowledge, so I cannot convey this hadith or this verse. I am not a scholar, I am not a student of knowledge. The Shaykh said, إِذَا عَلِمْتَ حَدِيثًا وَاحِدًا. If you learn one hadith, then convey it. If you learn one hadith, then convey it, then pass it on. This is asserting that what? If you are a layman, you don't have to be a student of knowledge. You don't have to be a scholar. So someone might come say, well, brother, what about the issue that pertains to giving khutbahs? First and foremost, you have to go back to the earlier scholars. And from among the madhahib, they are understanding that the person who has the ability to lead the salat, he has the ability to actually give the khutbah. Okay? And yes, we asked another scholar, Sheikh Abdullah, there in Mecca, we asked him in terms of pertaining to giving the khutbah. Does a person have to be a student of knowledge? And Sheikh Fawzan, in his Mulaqas al-Fiqh, he indicated that a person should have some type of knowledge, especially of the Book of Allah and the Sunnah, because this is what he's going to be calling the people to when he ascend the minbar. So a person can, he should have some understanding. But if not, he suffice himself with reading the aqwal, the statements, or the khutbah, alhamdulillah, that we have here in the library. We have the Maktab, we have four volumes of Sheikh Fawzan khutbahs. Also, you have a lot of the other ulama, Sheikh Uthaymeen on his website. He have khutbahs that have been recorded. Many different ulama have khutbahs that have been recorded that a person can use and read from those khutbahs. As far as the questions, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to answer your question. However, we're going to answer your question, inshallah ta'ala. We're going to save them for at the end of this talk, and we will address your question, inshallah. So be patient with us, inshallah. We want to at least present the information first. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to go into the kalam of Sheikh bin Baz on the hadith of convey for me, even if it's one verse.
No. In hadith, his explanation, Sheikh bin Baz, rahimahullah, بلغوا عني لو آية. Sheikh bin Baz said, هذا حديث صحيح وراه البخاري صحيح بلغوا عني ولو آية واجب للتبليغ عن الله لو آية ولو حديث واحد. He says, this hadith is in Bukhari, and this hadith is sahih, and it says, convey for me even if it's an ayah, even if it's one ayah. And he said, this means is the obligation that a person passes on the information that he learned from the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he learned about Allah, even if it's one ayah or one hadith. Even if it's one ayah or one hadith. الذي يحتاج يحفظ قوله تعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول. Surah An-Nisa, verse 59. He said, as long as an individual, he memorizes it, the statement, then he passes on this, and then he said, "O you who believe, obey Allah and obey His messenger." In Surah An-Nisa, verse 59. If a person learned this ayah, he memorized it, and then he told somebody it, that's sufficient. We're not talking about him explaining it. That's a whole lot. I think our brother, inshallah, may touch on the difference between just passing it on and explaining it, but just passing it on. Someone comes and say, I need a proof that we got to obey Allah and His messenger. You just say, Ati Allah wa Ati Rasul. You say the ayat that you memorized to him without any explanation. That's incumbent upon you, as Sheikh bin Baz said. He said, يَبْلُغُ يَحْفِظُ قَوْلُهُ جَلَّ وَعَلَى حَافِظُ عَلَى الصَّلَوَاتِ وَالصَّلَوَاتِ الْوُسْطَى قُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ. And he says, you memorize the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when he says, preserve the salat, the 5 salawat, and this the middle salat, which is asr, He said, and stand for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as obedience, upon obedience, while praying the salah. So if an individual is memorized ayat, somebody comes to you and say, well, Akhi, somebody asks me for a proof that it's obligatory that we pray. No, you say it's the ayat. You memorized it, you say the ayat. It's incumbent upon you to do that. Whether you can read Arabic or not, whether you have any, training to be an imam or training to be a da'i, but you got the ayat, and you know that the person asked you for the proof and you just gave him the proof. Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 238. وهكذا الذي هو يفهم يحفظ قوله تعالى. And he says, like an individual who understands and he memorizes the statement of Allah, أقيموا الصلاة وأوتوا الزكاة وأطيعوا الرسول لعلكم ترحمون. And he says, establish the salah, give the zakat, obey his messenger, so perhaps you will be what? Those who gain mercy. Those who be underneath the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is Surah An-Nur, verse 56. If an individual comes to you and asks you, what proof that we got to establish the salah? The proof that we got to pay zakat? The proof that we got to obey Allah? What's the proof that if I do these things, I have Allah's mercy? And you just say the ayah.
Whether he asks you for the proof or not,
yeah.
it's still incumbent upon you to relay it.
Exactly.
You can go to someone and just relay the ayah without him having to ask you what's the proof.
Exactly. يبلغ ويسمع الحديث ويحفظ إنما أعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى. And he says, for example, a person, he passes on what he heard from the hadith. The Prophet ﷺ said every action has a niyat, and every person will give a reward for what he does with his niyat.
Actions are judged by intentions.
So
each person will get that which he or she intended.
Right? So if an individual, you just passed it on. I mean, it may not even be a situation where the hadith is actually you're using it as a shahid or using it as a proof. You just learned it and you go to somebody, y'all talk, and say, but listen, let me say this hadith to you. And you give it to him, then he goes give it to somebody else. وَيَبْلُغُ أَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ ويسمع قول رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كل أمتي يدخلون الجنة إلا من أبى قيل يا رسول الله من يأبى قال من أعطاني دخل الجنة ومن عصاني دخل فقد أبى. And he says وما أشبه ذلك الذي يحفظ. He says so a person passes that on about the hadith of intentions. And he says ويسمع قول رسول. Then he hears the statement of the messenger of Allah that all of my nation will enter into Jannah except those who refuse. It was said, O Messenger of Allah, who are those who refuse? Who's going to refuse? He said, those who obey me enters paradise, and those who disobey me verily has refused. And anything like that which has been memorized, you pass it on.
No. Also, alhamdulillah, just so that no one can be confused, we're not saying that before a person embark upon teaching people that he or she does not have to have knowledge. That's not what we're saying. There are also narrations in Sahih Bukhari, Kitab al-Ilm, from the hadith of Ibn Abbas, that is a comment upon the person before he is asked that he should learn. So with no doubt, we're not bringing this hadith here to say that you don't have to have knowledge. What we're trying to establish is the fact that you don't need to seek anyone permission, because permission already been granted to you from Allah and His Messenger. Allah Azza wa Jalla said, "Ud'u ila sabili rabbika wal hikmah bil maw'izah hasana." Allah Jalla wa Ala said, call and invite into the way of your Lord with hikmah. Okay, the ulama explained the hikmah here is ilm Allah wa ilm sunnah Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And to argue with the people in the most best or beautiful way. So this is already a permission given from Allah Jalla wa Ala. Allah didn't say only to the ulama, only to the tulab in this verse. He didn't specify that. Allah Jalla wa Ala made it urdu'u ila sabili rabbika. So this is a permission granted from Allah Jalla wa Ala. And the hadith that we're going over now is a permission given from the Prophet ﷺ to convey the knowledge to those whom he has.
So let me ask you this. So you're saying that me and you're from Philadelphia, or any brother that's from Philadelphia, that it's not incumbent upon us to go check in with people here to give dawah in our own place that we've been born and raised in?
All right. Before I address that, inshallah, we're going to save that, because we're going to talk about the concept of checking in and whether or not it's sinister or whether or not it's, what is really the deal behind this concept of checking in with a group of people in order to give dawah. We're going to address that separately. First, you want us to get us to understand about the permission that has been given to us from Allah and His Messenger, and understand this hadith in totality, because none of the ulama, from the Sahaba on down to our modern time, understood that we have to seek permission in order to give knowledge. And this is a big mistake, because many of the people we see them on social media, we have witnesses ourselves. They will say, who grant the person the permission to even teach down here? Who grant the individual permission to even put a khutbah on Facebook or talk on Facebook? Who grant them? Aki, Ukti. No one have to give you the permission. Allah and His Messenger gave that person permission, provided that that person only convey. And we're going to talk about that later. Here we're going to bring the statement of Sheikh Al-Albani on this explanation of this particular hadith. بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً وَحَدِّثُوا عَنْ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ وَلَا حَرَجْ وَمَنْ كَذَبَ عَلَيَّ مُعْتَمِدًا. This is more of the hadith. However, we're not going to go into that. We're only going to stick on the part بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً. So he said, فَشَاهِدْ مِنْ هَذَا الْحَدِيث قَوْلُهُ. He said, so the point taken from this hadith is the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً. Convey for me even if it's one ayah. He said, لَيْسَ مَقْصُودٌ بِالْآيَةِ. He said, it's not, what is not meant here is not intended here al-ayah. يعني هنا معنى عرف العام أي آية من القرآن لا, meaning a verse from the Quran. It's how Sheikh Al-Albani understands. It doesn't mean a verse specifically from the Quran like what we know to mean an ayah. He said, no, that's not what's the maqsood here. He said, لأن أصل آية أصل معنى آية في اللغة العربية هي جملة كاملة. So he's saying that the origin, if you look up the origin linguistic in the Arabic language when it comes to the word ayah, you know what I mean, you're going to see that that it can be something that is complete, jumla kamila, right? فهنا, here the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, in this hadith, he is commanding every Muslim, يأمر كل مسلم, not يأمر كل عالم وكل طالب. The Prophet ﷺ is not commanding every scholar or every student. Here he's commanding every Muslim, which showing you the difference. What is he commanding them with? بلغت آية أي جملة من حديث رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, meaning convey a portion of those narrations from the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم. And يبلغها للناس وبذلك ينتشر علم الصحيح, that he convey them to the people and that he spread this authentic knowledge. لأن علم كما تعلمون من قبل ابن قيم رحمه الله من كبار أهل علم السلفيين. He said, and knowledge is just as we have learned, or just as you have learned, from the statement of Ibn Qayyim, rahimahullah, from the major scholars of Ahlul Ilm, of the Salaf, the one whom have taken the examples and followed the pathway of the Salaf in Aqidah, in fiqh, and in manners. He said in this beautiful poem, he said, knowledge is, Qala Allah, Qala Rasuluhu. Knowledge is the statement of Allah and His Messenger. Okay? And Qala Sahaba Laysa. And also the statements or the understanding of the companions with one Allah Ta'ala alayh. So, Sheikh Al-Albani here is reiterating the same thing that Sheikh bin Baz was saying. That it's not a stipulation that a person have to be from the people of knowledge in order to give order to convey. And something that Sheikh Al-Albani added that Sheikh bin Baz didn't say is the fact that here is not talking about an ayah specifically. Let alone, it doesn't mean you cannot convey an ayah that you didn't memorize. Likewise, there is another statement from Sheikh Salih Fawzan, Hafidhullah, it's on YouTube. It's in Arabic. He was addressing the university, the graduate from the University of Medina, and he brought up this hadith here. And he explained that this hadith, بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً, have two meanings. He said one meaning is that a person, as he mentioned earlier, a person have the ability just to convey, tabligh. Tabligh nas. He just conveyed the text as he or she heard it or memorized it. Yeah. That's it. That's it. He don't give it no explanation. He give it no ta'liqat. He give it no commentary. He don't give it none of those things. No sharh, no explanation. He just convey it just the way he heard it or have memorized it. That is permissible, and this is followed for anyone. Now the other issue is tabligh ma'na. Now he said that it's conveying the meaning of that particular text or ayat. Now you have to refer back to the people who have the ability to do so. So if the ulama, if you're a layman, then you convey the text, and if you have the ability to read the explanation of the ulama. Say for example, you're going over ayat. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu wa ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasul. The ayat in Surah An-Nisa that he mentioned earlier. Okay, you convey that ayat. Then you say, look, I'm going to look and see what Ibn Kathir said about it. And then you read what Ibn Kathir said about it. Here you just did what was correct. You went back and relied on the people who had the ability to explain that verse, and you conveyed it like that. Exactly. No one should come and tell you, Akhi, you have to go down there and check with the brothers so-and-so. Did you go down there and check in the masjid with so-and-so? Do the brothers know you? This concept is foreign. in terms of teaching knowledge or disseminating knowledge. Now, yes, there is an understanding that when a person comes to someone's town and they are familiar with the town and they're familiar with the people of that town, that if he can meet along with those individuals, not meet for the sake of getting permission, that's not how it's understood, but if he meet with those individuals because if the people is calling to that which is correct, and then indeed he want to meet with those who are also calling to that which is correct. There's nothing wrong with ta'awun ala birri wa taqwa, encouraging one another upon good and righteousness.
None.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Or ask permission to teach in somebody's facility.
Exactly. We're going to bring another statement from one of the mashaykh dealing with a su'al. Here we're going to bring, inshallah.
As you should ask permission to teach in somebody's facility. That's it. But that's not asking permission to teach knowledge. That's asking permission to use their facility.
So the question to ask, اختلف بعض الإخوة حول معنى حديث, and this is the problem that we have here. The question was asked that the brothers, they differ concerning the meaning of the hadith بلغوا عني ولا آية. They are confused. They have some difference among themselves. He said, this is what the question was. فهل هذا حديث يتضمن أمر بطلب علم الشرعي الذي من خلاله يستطيع إنسان أن يتمثل لعمل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بتبليغ علم على وجه الصحيح. So he said that is this hadith, does it consist of the command that a person study legislative knowledge? الذي من خلاله يستطيع إنسان, that a person what? Have the ability يتمثل عمل to comply with the command of the Messenger of Allah and conveying his knowledge in the correct manner? Or does it mean that any person can convey that which he has of knowledge, even if it's one ayat, fi aqal, and even if he is in the most less circumstances, whether he's from the people, meaning whether he's from the people who can actually convey that knowledge, legislative knowledge, or whether he's from the general people. The answer is, the Shaykh, at the praising Allah, singing salutation upon the Prophet ﷺ and his family, he said, what is correct is that أن من عرف شيئا من علم تحمل أو فقه وجب عليه تبليغه إذا لم يكن به غيره. He said that it is that anyone who learns or knows something, right, from knowledge, whether he carries it or whether he have understanding of it, then it's incumbent upon him or her, or he or she, to convey it. Right? إذا لم يكن به غيره. Right? Even if he doesn't be, he can convey it to other than himself. To other than those than himself, he said, لأن هذا من فروض الكفايات, because this disseminated knowledge is from the affairs of communal obligation. Meaning, if someone from the community do not establish it, then everyone from the community is blamed and worthy of punishment. All right. So it's part of kifaya. He said, وَلَا يَجُوزُ كَتْمَ عِلْمٍ, and it's not permissible to conceal knowledge. وَإِذَا قَامَ بِهِ غَيْرُهُ سَقَطَ عَنْهُ. So someone besides himself was to establish this affair of disseminating knowledge, then he's okay. The blame is removed from him. He don't have to convey that knowledge. But if no one besides himself convey that knowledge, then he the only one who has or possess that knowledge, then he has to convey that knowledge. And he said, وَلَكِنْ هُنَاكَ فَرَقَ تَبْلِيغ بَيْنَ تَبْلِيغ وَفَتْوَى. Now listen to this. He said, however, there is a major difference between conveying and issuing religious verdicts. Okay? There is a major conditions between a major difference between conveying something and issuing religious verdicts. Okay? Now, as far as for tablighu huwa in yuwasilu ma tahamalu min al-ilm kama tahamalu duna ziyada wala nuqsan. He said, as far as a person conveying knowledge without adding anything, without subtracting anything, he just conveyed the knowledge as he heard it or have memorized it, not best. There's no problem with that. Now, in terms of the person who wants to give fatwa, a religious verdict, then there's a lot of things that come along with that. He have to have the proper training. He have to know that the rules that pertaining to what? Giving fatwa. He have to reach the manzila of being one who can issue religious verdicts.
So there's no fatwa hotline.
Exactly. He have to go through all of that, those particular steps in order to do it. Okay. Now, conveying the fatwa of the ulama, that's different. As long as he's not. If he reached the manzila to do it himself, then that's not our affair here. We're not, alhamdulillah, we're not those people who can do that. Meaning saying, I'm myself and the brother Isa, alhamdulillah, but we are of the first people where we can convey knowledge to you, and we have the ability to translate the statements and the explanations of the ulama who have that specific ability, and they specialize in that, and we can convey to you what they extracted from the hadith or from the ayat, and not from ourselves. Barakallahu feet. Now, last but not least, to address the issue of checking in. Where does this concept come from? Okay, we're not saying that the concept issue. We're not saying that the concept issue from the Nation of Islam. We're not saying that the concept issue from the Black Incorporated. You know, the Black Mafia here in Philadelphia. We're not saying that the concept issue from the actual Italian mob. No, but we're going to show you some similarities. If you think about back then when the Nation of Islam, whenever they wanted to open a mosque or something like that, they would say, "Did you check back in with Chicago?"
No.
Did you check back with these group of people? Did Chicago sanction that move? Likewise with the Italian mob, we all know when it was time to do something, if you want to expand or you wanted to do anything, you have to check in back in with the Don, or you have to go back to Italy or Sicily. You have to see whether or not you can do this. With the Black Incorporated in Philadelphia, there's a beautiful book called The Black Incorporated. You can look it up. The Rise and Fall of the Black Mafia here in Philadelphia, and you see that they had these same similar concepts, that you have to have someone, a body or group of people that overlook certain affairs that can take place. No one from the ulama have gave anyone the ability here in Philadelphia, or even in America for that case, that you are the group of people that these people have to go back to establish. First of all, the ulama don't possess that ability to do so. They do not possess. We just read the evidence. They don't possess the ability to do so. Who possess the ability to do so if you're in a land where they have a Muslim ruler?
He gives the permission.
The Khalifa have the ability to say this knowledge cannot be disseminated here. But there's no one besides that station can say that, yeah, especially here in America and the ulamas in the East, that say, yo, okay, you have to, you have to go through these particular guys here in order to give knowledge.
Yeah, and we don't have a Muslim government. May Allah guide this government to Islam. I mean, we don't have a Muslim authority here.
Yeah, exactly. So no one can come and say, well, did you check in with masjid so-and-so? Do those guys know you? That concept is foreign. You have no dalil. We just read to you the evidence. Show me one evidence besides that, or any one scholar. You can just bring me one statement of one scholar that besides this will tell you that you need to check in with masjid so-and-so in order to give dawah, in order to record, in order to open up schools, in order to open up libraries, in order to do any of these things, in order to just teach. You have to have some type of, you have to go back to someone. You have to just look at the similarities there. What is really understood behind that? Is it possible that the people who have placed themselves in charge are trying to monopolize the dawah, are trying to control the way that the dawahs go? Is that the case? We're not here saying that that is the case. I'm just saying, think. Inshallah ta'ala, I'm challenging you to think. If they don't have any evidence for them to establish themselves as the authority and that people have to check in with them, we need to examine their intentions behind it. What do they mean by that we have to check in with them?
Now, and what's scary is that I remember when Sheikh Mahmoud al-Ahmed, may Allah preserve him, his book on the Ikhwan. And we're not calling the brothers Ikhwan. Don't take my statement and run with it. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that his book that he wrote on the Aqidah of the Ikhwani Muslimin in Egypt, one of the things that he brought was a pyramid scheme that they had. They have it's a top guy, and then there's guys underneath him. It's like a pyramid scheme. It's like almost like an organization within an organization. It's like the guy at top, and it's not permissible in Islam to have these type of secret orders or these type of orders in a Muslim country, because there's already an nizam already. There's already an order, which is the government. And so it's not, then the guy up top, the murshid they call him, the ikhwan, the murshid, that everybody get their fatwa from. You can't get married without him giving you permission. You can't move somewhere without giving you permission. His religious fatwa go over the fatwa of the ulama, and even over the fatwa of the Prophet ﷺ. Even over the Prophet ﷺ. You could bring a hadith, they'll still go with the murshid. Okay, so these concepts are foreign to Islam. That there's a pyramid scheme in Islam, or there's a priesthood in Islam, that even scholars can't. You don't need the permission of a scholar to say an ayat or a hadith. There's no priesthood in Islam. There's no pope in Islam. Okay, there's no cardinals.
How many times you just said that? Because we do have fanatics.
Yeah.
You ever hear a brother actually dislike you? The fact that you even giving dawah, yo, the brothers don't know you. No one gave you or authorized to give you that for you to give dawah. I mean, they really go to the extreme. They will go back and forth and troll you on social media. They will talk about you, you know what I mean, degrade you and everything. This person is an ignoramus and so forth. And these are laymen.
Yeah.
We had an individual call us deviants.
Yesterday.
We had an individual call us deviants. And I mean, we don't even want to get on that topic. As far as, and you know, I don't even blame that particular person. Even though he takes that blame, I blame the people who, quote unquote, put themselves in charge for allowing the awam, the nas, the commoners, to run loosely with their tongues and say someone is a deviant. It's like saying someone is a kafir. As Shaykh Uthaymeen, rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, he said, if someone was to call me a deviant, it definitely will be real hard for me to, you know, to accept that. There's no evidence. Only Allah and His Messenger can deem someone to be a deviant. The ulama can only use the evidence from that, from Allah and His Messenger, to place that ruling upon somebody. And they don't just haphazardly or loosely place the ruling of a deviant upon somebody. Where it's so easy to say, yo, such and such really a deviant. Why? Because such and such don't take from a group of people you take from. Or such and such have understanding different from what you was taught. First and foremost, you've probably never been overseas. And if you have been overseas, you will see that it's not the same.
No.
All the ulama is not at each other's throats like we think. The ulama is not, there's certain ulama that we are promoted here, that we hear their names. And they're big names, alhamdulillah. But they are not big over there. A lot of them cannot issue fatwas, even in the land that they're in. A lot of them are not even on TVs,
No.
let alone, or go back to and see that they don't have that. So you have to extremely be careful when someone tell you, yo, you can't do this, you can't do that. You have to produce proof and evidence. And every time we ask the individual for his evidence, all he did is reply back with calling us insults and names.
No.
You're a deviant.
SubhanAllah.
He never came back with the evidence.
No, SubhanAllah.
And this is not only him, this is going over everywhere. Anywhere you at, okay, you mention the name, a person come right out, well, okay, he's such and such. And you're like, well, you can't even read Aleph Bad Tab.
No.
You don't even know your wudu. You don't even know your salat. You don't even know such and such. Here you got the audacity to say someone is a deviant.
But you're busy with these affairs.
Busy with these affairs. And this is something that we see that's progressing. This is what we're talking about with the Ikhwani Muslimin.
No.
How they, you know, they go so extreme that they would take that position
No.
of their murshid
No.
over that of Allah and His
They do.
Messenger. And this was some individual say, Aki, the Prophet ﷺ said, Ballighu anni walau ayat. And a person come back and say, well, so-and-so, Da'i so-and-so
No.
said,
It's a Ikhwan mentality or Sufi mentality.
how are you quoting Da'i so-and-so, and I'm here quoting the hadith to you, that the Prophet ﷺ said, Ballighu walau ayat. And then the ulama, they explained this hadith to be such and such. No one got that understanding from it. It's kind of difficult. To answer the question to the brother, alhamdulillah, Shaykh Uthaymeen answered this question. A lot of the ulama have answered this question. Sheikh bin Baz, Sheikh Zayd al-Makali, Sheikh Muhammad ibn Hadi al-Makali, a lot of the ulama, and some of the ulama that I didn't mention, they answered the question in terms of tahsil ilm, and also seeking knowledge, and the method of seeking knowledge. If you don't have a scholar in your land that you can go to and you can benefit from directly, then there is the second stage. If you have the ability to listen to the ulama, their durus, which is online, alhamdulillah, and they got classes that are live.
Mm-hmm.
If you have the ability, meaning you have Arabic, you have understanding, then you can listen directly to them through that way and benefit from their tapes. We asked recently, a while back, we asked, relatively short, we asked Sheikh Reuni a question on Twitter pertaining to following his durus on Ajurumiyya and studying, going over his class, Ajurumiyya with him. Can we be considered to be students even though we're not present with him right there? And the Sheikh actually responded and said, Naam, you're considered to be students because you're following where it be via audio. So if a person, you know, as Sheikh Uthaymeen said, if a person is learning via audio and he doesn't have the ability to learn directly from the Sheikh, then it's just like as if he take it from the Sheikh anyway. Because that's what he's doing. He just not have the ability to be present. And when that door is open from the permission of Allah Jalla wa'ala, then he should travel and go sit under the scholars. Before you reach the level of just taking from the students, you should first see do you have the ability to listen to the ulama yourself. If you don't possess that ability, then you go down to those students that are strong, those students that are, you know, alhamdulillah, that both strong both in two things, quwwah and ilm. They are strong in knowledge and they are strong in strength and trustworthiness. As Shaykh Uthaymeen assert that they should have these two characteristics which you're looking for before you start taking knowledge from individuals. And you can refer back to this in the question and answer in this book called Kitab al-Ilm. The book of knowledge has been rendered into the English language. You can refer back to what I'm saying, inshallah ta'ala, and he answered this question in detail. Also in Usul al-Thalatha, the three fundamental principles, Sheikh Zayd al-Mekli, he answered the methodology and what books beginner students should begin with, and how to embark on the journey of seeking knowledge. So if a person only have audio form that he or she can listen to, then this is okay, until something else open up for that person, inshallah ta'ala. I hope that answered your question. But brothers and sisters, really and truly, we want to eradicate the fallacy, and it is a fallacy. We need to stop this because it is separating us and is dividing us from one another and from actually benefiting from one another. Okay, there are not many ulama, or there are not many strong tulab or ilm here in the West. We have some, alhamdulillah, and yes, they need our support and our aid, but there are not a lot, and we should not feel as though that, you know, we should tear one another down because Allah Ta'ala bless certain individuals to have the ability to, you know, disseminate knowledge on whatever level they can, and tear them down by saying, okay, well, you're not qualified, or you don't have the ability, or you don't have the permission to do so and so. We just showed you that no one, and no one besides a Khalifa, an Islamic ruler, besides a ruler that can sanction you whether or not you can give knowledge or not, whether or not you can teach knowledge or not. Meaning, and he has the authority in that land. There's no scholar that possesses that ability to say that such and such cannot give knowledge. Now, the scholar might say from his research that so-and-so, and show you the proofs and evidence that so-and-so is a person that called to misguidance. If the person is one who called to misguidance, then the scholar might say from here, from our conclusion, we say to stay away from this particular person. Stay away from this particular books, and don't learn from this person, because rather you'll go astray. And this is something that the ulama have the ability to do so. So we don't go around saying that. You don't have to get on social media telling people that so-and-so don't have the ability to spread or disseminate knowledge, because all you have to ask him is, it's not your job. First of all, who tells you that? And if you say you have to check in with a certain masjid, Arena Dalil, show us the evidence that that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, and another thing we want to be very dangerous of, these type of issues leads to hizbiyah, not salafiyah, partisanship. And how does that happen? One form of hizbiyah, I asked this question, it was said back to me by one of the mashaykh in Egypt. He said there's a weak walaya da'ifa. I mean, your allegiance is weak. And what he meant by that is that your allegiance is not upon kitab or sunnah. Your allegiance is upon a person, place, or a thing, or a particular master, or a particular group of people, or somebody's personality. So what happens is that from that, when you stand against somebody, or you don't stand against somebody, it's based upon that place, or that group, or that person. It's not because he went against kitab or sunnah, because they went against that person, place, or thing. This is not salafiyah. Rather, it's hizbiyah. And this is what's happening to us. We need to be very, very careful, because this type of things lead to innovation. And innovation leads to leaving Islam. It's dangerous. And I'm only saying this out of love. It's dangerous.
Extremely dangerous. And Sheikh Sulaiman al-Ruhaili, Hafidullah Ta'ala, he mentioned that one of the strongest tazkiyah that a person can have is what he calls to. What he or she calls to. You get to look at the knowledge that they have. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, just to say on the eve of what you're saying, is because many people, they say, well, I don't know if those brothers are from Ahlul Bidah, like the brother said. First of all, you have to look at what he or she calls to. If you don't possess the ability to be able to differentiate between when a person is calling to the sunnah or not, then you definitely shouldn't be the one talking to them, telling them they're a deviant. You shouldn't be saying that.
No.
If you're going to do it, at the very least, you want to refer back to someone who has more knowledge than you, and then you want to say, okay, I came across a group of brothers, they are teaching such and such. I'm not able to discern whether or not what they're teaching is correct or not. Are you able to look into this matter for me so we can see what's going on? But don't try to, cloud doubt or surround them with doubt, or say, they are unclear. Alhamdulillah, man, all of our classes are recorded here.
No.
You can go back and check them. You can dissect them and everything. And you can see that the most consistent thing that we call to, me and the brother Isa here, specifically, is Kitab wa Sunnah ala Fahm Salaf.
No.
And we use the ulama explanation. So if you want to argue with that, then that's best. But don't go beyond and say just because we're not in alignment or agreement with this or that, that's not necessarily true. And just because you don't see us shaking hands with so-and-so don't mean that we are against so-and-so. There's another concept that we definitely need to eradicate. And it's a weird concept, meaning that if he's not with us, he's against us. It's actually a principle of his being.
No.
I mean, even though some people won't literally say it, some people actually came out and said it. Da'is actually came out and said it. But it's to have this understanding. If he's not seen at this masjid, then that must mean he opposes this masjid.
Didn't George Bush say that when he gave his talk before he entered Iraq? You either with us or against us?
So you're with or against us.
George Bush said the same thing.
But I'm just saying, you think about that though. That concept is actually, just because you don't see a person, doesn't mean he or she is actually against you. You know, who we get this mentality? Nah.
From the streets.
I mean, Sheikh Rabi'a, what did he say? He said that the people of the Sunnah are together even if they live in different lands or different places. The people of the Sunnah are together no matter if they are in different lands. And someone older than him actually made this statement, is Imam Shafi'i. You know what I mean? And the scholars earlier than that. So the people of the Sunnah are one, no matter wherever they may be found at and what part of the lands they are found at. They are one. If they are calling to Kitab or Sunnah, they are calling upon the Fahm al-Salaf al-Salih, meaning the Sahaba specifically, and then their generation, those generations. If they're calling specifically upon that, then they are one.
No.
Even if they're not in the same vicinity.
Or the same tribe.
Yeah, even if they're not in the same tribe, that don't have to be the case. And no, again, we're going to lead us here, inshallah ta'ala, we do not have to check in with anyone. We don't have to check in with anyone.
We're not going to check in.
The stipulation is we have to make sure we have knowledge to that which we call to. So before you open up a book and teach, and before you begin to start talking, at least make sure you have knowledge of that particular issue that you're going to talk about. And if you don't have knowledge, then you don't have to worry about explaining it yourself. Then what you can do is you still can convey it. And if you have the ability to read the people who do have knowledge, meaning their explanations, la bas.
No.
Inshallah ta'ala. That's what we wanted to bring today. And hoping to shed some light on eradicating the fallacy of checking in and seeking permission to give dawah.
Yeah, definitely when you're from this town, I don't have to check in my own town. I mean, like our brother Naeem was said to him, you know what I mean? You gotta, or the brother Hisham, you gotta check in. You know, you gotta go, it's like, you know, you go to Philadelphia, it's like, you know, you gotta, it's like going to Mecca and not checking in with Sheikh Rabi'a. You gotta, same thing you gotta do here. It's not the case. I'm from here.
Barakallahu feek. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.